Welcome to the Evolve EdTech Podcast. In this podcast, we share tips, tricks, and tools to help you incorporate new and engaging educational technology into your classroom to help you evolve the creativity, communication, and technological abilities of your students, colleagues, and school community. So sit back and welcome your host and Evolve EdTech creator, Tristan Heron.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Evolve EdTech podcast from Evolve EdTech. If we haven't met before, my name is Tristan Heron and I am the founder of Evolve EdTech, and I'm also your host of the Evolve EdTech podcast today. Today, we're diving into the world of creativity and curriculum, where they go hand in hand. We're talking about student-centered podcasts. Yes, you heard it right, podcasts made by your students. Podcasts are a remarkable tool for helping students develop research, writing, public speaking skills, and so much more. So today, let's dive in to have a look at 15 ways that you could use podcasting in your classroom. So let's get this episode started. In today's digital age, our classrooms and our learning spaces need to reflect the technological proficiency required by people and citizens in today's world. Podcasting can be a wonderful educational tool where we harness the power of audio storytelling whilst also addressing different learning styles of the students that we are teaching in our classes. Podcasts encourage active learning, creativity, and they provide an authentic audience for our students, which is a really essential part of developing a student's voice. Plus, podcasts are fun and engaging. Here I am right here with the Evolve EdTech podcast. So here I am showing you that podcasts are fun and engaging. So today, let's start exploring 15 ways to use podcasting in the classroom. First up, let's talk about book talks. Have you ever had a student who has read a fantastic book and wish that they could share that with the class, with their peers? Well, with podcasting, they can do that. Students can create book talk podcasts, sharing thoughts on the books they've read and why they recommend them to other students. It's an excellent way for our students to practice critical thinking and communication whilst fostering a love of literature. You could then take these book talk podcasts, you could share them, place them on your library system, website, class platform, and let your students have a voice when it comes to sharing opinions based on books that they have read and loved. What a great way to use podcasting in the classroom that's simple, authentic, and real for our students. Next, news reports. Podcasts can also serve as a platform for students to analyze and discuss current events. Here they can research news stories, write scripts, and present them as they would on a professional news report, bolstering their media literacy, research skills, and understanding of global issues. I can see this as a fantastic way for students to be involved in a whole range of subjects: English, maths, geography, our sciences. There's always something interesting and new happening in our world. This would have been a really great way to explore the consequences and the issues associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. We're looking at climate change. We're looking at world events. News reports and podcasting is a simple way to explore these with our students and develop a whole range of skills which will make them active and informed citizens as they move into our very, very different world compared to what most of us experienced when we were going through school. Let's move on and let's talk about interviews. This also links in really nicely to the previous option of news reports. The ability to conduct a good interview is an invaluable life skill. It's something that takes a lot of time, takes a lot of practice, and podcasts allow our students to develop these skills. So, have you ever had students reach out to experts in fields that interest them, prepare questions, and conduct an interview? Well, with podcasts and the ability to use interviews, Students will be able to learn valuable lessons in communication, research, and real world networking by creating and sharing their own podcasts. Again, we can create podcasts on our own interests. We can create podcasts on a specific topic or theme. We can create podcasts on almost anything that is relevant to our students or our school community. Again, we can share these in so many ways. I can see them being shared on social media based on permissions, of course. I can see them being shared with students. I can see students talking to peers, talking to teachers, talking to members of the community, and relaying these with what they're learning in class. There's so many ways that our students can develop interview skills and create their own interview podcasts with podcasting in the classroom. A really great tool and a really great way to learn a whole suite of really important life skills. So, linking in nicely with the news reports and interviews is the creation of a class news network. So, this is where our students are not only consumers, but they're also the creators of our news. So, our students can take on roles such as reporters, editors, and even our news anchors. So, in this scenario, we might have each student or a group of students who would be responsible for different sections of the news. One could focus on school news, another on local news, whilst others might cover sport, weather, or special interest stories related to your school or your community. This allows students to foster a sense of ownership and responsibility while encouraging students to stay informed about what's happening around them. We always have those really dedicated students who would excel at something like this. We don't always have to focus on our gifted and talented students when it comes to creating a news program like this. We can take whoever is engaged, whoever is interested, and it might be one of those students that we didn't think would be interested in doing something like this, but they are loving this option of being involved. You might have a news report that you present each week or each fortnight or each term to your school community that is created by your students. So, news reports, interviews, and a classroom news network are another fantastic way to use podcasting in your classroom, in your school environment. So, let's move on to something a little bit different now. How about a little bit of poetry? That's right, students can record themselves reading and analysing poetry. For all of those English teachers out there, or those language literacy teachers, they're probably thinking this is a fantastic way to use podcasting. I'm an English teacher myself here in Australia, so this is something that I think is fantastic. Podcasting is a powerful way to improve not only our students' reading fluency, comprehension, and critical thinking skills, but it also allows them to hear other students. We have a lot of students who are very conscious about standing up and delivering and talking in front of their peers. Maybe if we are creating podcasts where our students can record themselves reading poetry or analysing poetry, we're going to take away a little bit of that anxiety and provide our students with the opportunity to share their voice, because our voice, our opinions, our ideas are essential components to becoming an active and informed citizen in life. So, using podcasting to record and analyze poetry, another fantastic tool that we can use when it comes to podcasting in our classroom environments. It's a great way to get our students involved and a great way to see what our students know and what they'd like to share. So just stop for a moment and picture this. You're a teacher striving to create engaging and visually appealing resources for your students. It's something that we're always doing and we're always aiming to do. But you're time poor. Well, guess what? Evolve EdTech has you covered. That's right, we have your back here at Evolve EdTech. We've partnered with Canva to provide you with an extensive collection of editable templates. That's right, editable templates. We're not just going in there and saying you have to use our template, you can't change it. These are 100% customizable for your specific needs. But here's the best part, okay? It only takes a few clicks to personalize these. Okay, if you've got a specific teaching style or lesson objective, you want to change your colors, your text, you want to add graphics, you can do all of this at your fingertips with these specially designed templates just for educators like you. But wait, there's more. These templates aren't only limited to digital use. You can also easily print them off and create captivating classroom displays, okay, worksheets that will bring your lessons to life. That's right. They are not only digital, you can also print them off. So I can hear you saying, Tristan, how do I access these incredible resources? Well, I have an answer for you, which is very lucky because I hope I do. Simply head over to the Evolve EdTech website and navigate to their digital templates section. So you're just going to navigate to our digital templates section. From there, you can see our wide range of categories and find the perfect template for your needs. Our template collections are growing and they will continue to grow, but go and have a look and see if you can find a template that is just what you need. And remember, it's 100% customizable so that you can meet your specific needs for your students in your classroom. So head over to the Evolve EdTech website and navigate to the digital templates section and start exploring our digital templates today. Welcome back. Let's keep going with looking at our 15 ways that we could use podcasting in our classrooms. Are you a science teacher? Okay. Maybe you, as a science teacher, would think about using podcasts for science experiments. How about we get our students to create oral presentations, oral experimentational reports based on their science experiments? Here, your students can explain processes, observations, and results, promoting understanding, communication, and critical thinking. It's a great way to assess students' knowledge, especially for students that might have trouble, say, writing down a report or a science report or analyzing these. Using our podcast and our podcasting capabilities allows them to express what they know. And again, you could create and maybe get your students collaborating and creating different people and using different students in the class for various elements. It's a really great way and a really cool thing to try. I would love to see what it would be like to create a podcast as a science student in a classroom. So, if you're a science teacher, how could you use podcasts in your classroom for your science experiments today? Let's have a look at language teachers. Okay. If you're a language teacher, an English teacher like I am here, okay, podcasts could be another fantastic tool that you might like to utilize and trial in your classrooms. With podcasts, your students can practice pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, and conversational skills in a non-threatening environment. Okay? Our students are anxious. Our students are overwhelmed by certain things, bullying, intimidation. There's a lot of processes and things that are going through our young people's minds. So being able to create a non-threatening podcast might be the way that we can engage some of our reluctant students. This is a simple way for students to practice their speaking skills whilst listening to the podcast recordings of their peers. At one of my previous schools, it was something that I really promoted and I really highly engaged with my head teacher to look at moving away from making speeches and having students deliver speeches in front of peers to getting them to record their speeches and present them as a podcast, essentially. This was so successful that we actually almost had 0 students who were not submitting the task. We went from having a number of students who refused to submit the task to basically very few students who would be a non-submission of a task. So it was a really successful process for us to move from asking our students to present in front of their peers to recording them. Yes, I know that there are benefits of presenting in front of people. I know that. But when we're looking at our young people and looking at the best way to support them, this was what was working for them. So being able to create a podcast, practice their speaking skills, as well as looking at how can we edit, how can we go back and fix up mistakes, was a fantastic way to engage our students, especially here in our English classes down here in Australia. So let's have a look at cultural exploration podcasts. So these can be a wonderful way of helping our students understand and appreciate the diversity around them. Students can research and present on different cultures, bringing about a broader awareness and understanding. I can see this coming in really handy when we're looking at students from other cultures, backgrounds, when we're looking at specific times of the year, Pride Month, when we're looking at, various elements of our society. This cultural exploration and looking at how our students could use a podcast to create resources for students and the wider community is a fantastic way of getting them involved, but also embracing the rich cultural diversity that exists in this world. We have so many different cultures, people, communities, environments. And this could be a way where we could start to get our students involved, getting them to develop a whole range of 21st century skills by creating a podcast or a series of podcasts that we can share with our students and our school communities. What a fantastic way to show the really great elements of the world and humanity. So let's move on to the creative minds now. So, those of you who are, again, English or language teachers, creative writing. Have you ever thought about creative writing podcasts? They're actually a really great platform for sharing stories, poems, or plays, practicing storytelling skills, but also receiving feedback from the teacher, their peers, and getting those skills refined so that they can create really fantastic pieces of work. So, with stories, poems, or plays, we could share them on social media, school websites, exploring and showcasing the talents of our students. We might even look at short story podcast competitions that might be available. There's so many ways. This links in nicely to audiobooks. I'm a huge audiobook fan. I like to be able to get my students to listen to professional voice actors who are delivering text in a very engaging way. I love reading to kids, but as we know, as a teacher, speaking all day, every day takes a lot out on your voice. So, being able to teach our students how to use a podcast to record a story, a poem, or play is a fantastic way to get them to develop their skills, but also providing their students and peers with the opportunity to listen to these stories and engage with them through audio. Okay, this leads on to the next one, public speaking. We've already mentioned a little bit about this, but public speaking is another area that podcasts can be really, really beneficial for. Our students can create podcasts delivering speeches or debates. Again, it's providing them with a safe space to practice and refine their public speaking skills. So what we've seen so far is a couple of overlap of ideas here. A lot of these relate to speeches and obviously voice, and these are skills that can and have an impact on a student's life. So, by creating a podcast, we're able to get them to develop these skills, practice and refine these skills in a non intimidating, safe way. We want our students to feel comfortable. We want our students to exceed and excel. And podcasts are actually a way that we can do this without our students feeling overwhelmed, and also helping our students develop these skills in a really supportive, safe way. Each episode of the Evolve with EdTech podcast, we will bring you a Chrome extension, an extension that you can include and use in Chrome, your Chrome web browser, which will enhance your productivity and also enhance the lessons that you're able to provide your students. This week, our Chrome extension is Screencastify. You might have heard of Screencastify before, and Screencastify allows you to record your screen or webcam, making it a perfect tool for creating instructional videos, feedback, or demonstrations. It's definitely a tool that came in really handy during remote learning and allowed us to provide additional support for students who missed a lesson. It allowed us to create those quick tutorial videos to support our colleagues or our friends or our family or our students in, accessing various elements of computers or technology in a time when we weren't able to see each other. It also allows for feedback. Okay, you can provide your students, your peers, your colleagues with feedback to help them grow. So head over to the Chrome Web Store today and check out Screencastify. It's a fantastic tool that you and your students can use, and it's a fantastic extension which you can add to your Chrome web browser today. So head over to the Chrome web store to check out the screencastifying extension and add that to your Chrome web browser today. So far today in this episode of the Evolve with EdTech podcast, we have explored 10 ways that we can use podcasting in our classroom. We've got 5 more awesome ideas to go, so let's jump right in and check these awesome ideas out. All right, reflections. Reflections are a really great way for our students to look back on their learning journey. Here, our students can create podcasts to reflect on their learning, discussing their thoughts, insights, and learning progress. We could use these reflection podcasts as part of our learning portfolios. We could embed them on student websites, or we could share them at parent-teacher conferences. This is a fantastic way for our students to have ownership, to identify their strengths, areas that they need to continue to work on, what they really like or enjoy about a particular subject, topic, what they would look forward to moving forward as a learner. So reflections and podcasting go hand in hand, and they're a fantastic way to get our students to reflect on what they've done, what they've achieved, and where they need to go to next. So far in today's episode, we've mentioned a number of ways to use podcasts in the classroom. But do you know what? When creating podcasts, it's really important that we teach our students how to create an engaging podcast that's going to bring together this idea of audio storytelling. So one thing that we should always make sure our students understand is this idea of adding music and sound effects to their podcasts. Allowing our students to explore the creative possibilities of audio storytelling whilst also learning about sound design are really important parts of creating a really great podcast. If you're listening to, and I hope you're listening to my podcast right now, you'll notice that I've broken up all of the different sections to make them smaller, to make them more manageable for my listeners to listen to. I've also included some transition sounds between each section so that my listeners know that we're moving from one idea to the next. I've broken up the content so it's not just one piece of content being delivered for 20 minutes. Instead, we've got some different ideas that are being conveyed and explored throughout the show. So make sure that you teach your students about this idea of music and sound effects and how to create a really fantastic digital story. Another favorite of mine, because I am a history teacher as well as an English teacher down here in Australia, are history projects. Okay, history projects. We could use podcasts to allow our students to document stories of people. And it could be people in their local community, it could be their family, it could just be people related to history in general, whatever we're looking at exploring in our history curriculum. So with this, our students might hone their interviewing skills. They can look at listening and storytelling, as well as connecting with heritage and history in a meaningful way. I can just imagine our students looking at something and going, what am I going to do? How am I going to present this particular aspect of history through a podcast that's going to be engaging? So moving away from just those, written texts, those history essays, those really, uninspiring ways that we ask students to present history, to presenting their version and their understanding of history and their historical skills through a podcast. Great way to get our students engaged and a really authentic way for them to present and deliver those historical skills that they have been developing. So another way that we could use podcast in the classroom is for broadcast journalism. So we've talked about this a few times today already in our episode with news and interviews. Here we could actually get our students to mimic the style of professional broadcast journalists. So we might get our students to look at a range of different YouTube clips from broadcast journalists around the world, identify their strengths, identify what they do to make their broadcast journalism fantastic and powerful. So from here, we would be able to get our students to develop their own broadcast journalism styles. We'd be able to get them to develop their reporting, editing, critical thinking skills. How would they approach an interview with a particular person or in a particular subject? We would get them to look at those broadcast journalists and use them to help them create their own broadcast journalism style. A fantastic way to get our students involved and get them developing a whole range of skills which can be intertwined into many different parts of our curriculums and our school days and our school journeys with our students. And finally, that's right, we're up to number 15 already. Our last way that we could use podcasts in our classroom is for collaborative projects. We haven't really talked about collaborative projects. So with collaborative projects, our students can work together to create podcasts, developing their teamwork and communication skills, whilst also providing and producing high quality content. These can be shared with peers, uploaded in learning portfolios, or used for student assessment and reports. One way that I have and a very close colleague of mine, Miriam, have used this idea of collaborative projects and collaborative podcasts is with one of our Year 11 English standard classes down here in Australia. We explored the podcast Serial, which was fantastic, and we were looking at how Serial had been created and how it was presenting different technologies to the audience. From here, we had our students create and respond to a specific question based on Serial and podcasting, but we asked them to create their own podcast. A number of our students used a range of editing tools. They included various sound effects, they included introductions. It was a really engaging and fantastic way for our students to work together to develop their teamwork, communication skills, whilst also providing and producing fantastic podcasts, which we were able to listen to and we were able to use for sample podcasts in the future with our students. Obviously, we had permission, but it was a really great way to develop our student skills, and it was a really rewarding learning journey and was probably one of the best assessment tasks that I have ever seen for our students. So make sure you think about using podcasts for collaborative projects, okay? It's a fantastic tool and a fantastic way to get all of your students involved in their learning. Well, as you can see, student-created podcasts are a wonderful way to engage our young people, build skills, as well as enrich their learning. So I really highly encourage you to go ahead and give it a shot in your classrooms today. How can you use podcasting to help your students develop a range of 21st century skills that will help them as they move out into their lives? So let us know how you use podcasting in your classroom by connecting with us on Twitter. To follow Evolve EdTech on Twitter, just search for our handle, Evolve EdTech AU. Well, that brings us to the end of episode 2 of the Evolve with EdTech podcast. If you've liked this episode, please make sure that you follow and engage with us on our socials, you subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we would love for you to become part of the Evolve EdTech family. We're still growing, we're still getting bigger and better every day, and we would like you to be part of our journey. So thank you so much for joining us this episode, and until next time, stay safe and don't forget to keep innovating with EdTech in your classroom. I'm Tristan, thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, see you later.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Evolve with EdTech podcast with your host, Tristan Heron. If you loved this episode, please rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to our podcast to help others find it. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you again in the next episode of the Evolve with EdTech podcast.